Hello, so my name's Dave Millard. I'm one of the lead educators on the course, and we're just going to record a little video really just to respond to some of the comments and some of the thoughts this week. This is the third time we've run the course, and we're very pleased. We've still got about 3,000 of you who've registered and are participating from all over the world, so thank you very much for participating in the course and for posting some comments and posting questions and generally forming a little bit of a community around this topic. One of the things I've noticed is that the title of the course is The Power of Social Media. And I think a few people, while they've enjoyed this first week, have kind of wondered exactly what we were trying to do with the week and how it relates to that title. So for those of you who have been a bit surprised at the content, I should say that next week I'm expecting it to be a little bit more like what you're expecting perhaps, about how you use social media yourself and how you take advantage of it. But this week we wanted to do something a little bit different. I think this week we were trying to help you think about social media a little bit differently and think about it not necessarily just from the perspective of the users, but also the companies who provide social media and who use the data on social media. So we wanted to introduce you to some core ideas. We've talked about how you model social media, how you can use ideas from graph theory, for example, and how those models then allow us to analyze social networks and understand different ways about how people interact and what's going on those networks. One of the advantages of thinking about it that way is that actually social media systems, things like Facebook, for example, contain multiple networks, not just the obvious ones. So Facebook doesn't just have a network of friends who are related to other friends, but it also has people interacting, people are members of groups, people attend events, and we can extract all of those different things and actually form different networks that can tell us different things. So for example, it might tell us about clusters of friendships or family or allegiances. It might tell us about how people are interacting. We had an exercise looking at power and influence. It might tell us about how information flows around the network and about the roles that different people take in those networks. We've also tried to look at how social theory can help us understand what's happening on social media, and in particular how it can then go on to explain certain phenomena that we see. So one of the articles in the course, for example, talked about the idea of homophily. Homophily is the idea that birds of a feather flock together. So the people in your immediate social circle are probably the same age as you, they're probably the same gender as you, they probably have roughly the same education as you, they probably come from a very similar background to you. And what homophily does is it means that when social media systems start to introduce personalization and they start to actually try to feed you information that they think will be interesting to you, because of homophily, because the people you're attached to are very similar to you, it means the information you get is effectively information that would be interesting to those people as well. We call this the filter bubble. Essentially, your views are started to be reflected back to you. And it creates kind of like an echo chamber, which encourages extremism, or it makes people sort of entrenched in their particular views. And that's something that's really enabled phenomena like fake news. It's a very fertile ground for fake news. So fake news is the idea that people produce fictitious content that's made to look like a news article. It might be clickbait, something that's supposed to drive advertising revenue, or it might be politically motivated, something that's trying to persuade you that a particular government or a particular political position is wrong. But when they get injected into these filter bubbles, they tend to get magnified and echoed around. And I think that's a real problem and a real challenge for us, for society working with social media today. And it's certainly been a big influence on some major things we've seen, particularly here in the UK, but also in the United States in the last year. So as I said, really this course has been about trying to think differently about social media and think about it much more holistically. The truth is that a lot of the power in social media actually resides in the companies that provide social media. They're the people who are analysing our activity in order to sell it, or sell us really, to advertisers. But also there are third parties who are doing things like analysing activity so they can target people who might be influenced during an election. So really I think the lesson we like people to take away from this first week is that yes, social media has lots of potential benefits. It's an amazing way to link up with other people, to connect with people. But you should also always remember to use it carefully. So be aware of the bigger issues, be aware of who else is looking, our activity and our data, and think about ways that we can take advantage of the positives of social media while avoiding the negatives. So I hope you've enjoyed this first week. I hope it's made you think about social media in a different way. Next week, or rather this week, Lisa is the lead educator, and she's going to be talking much more about how you can use social media yourself, about personal branding, about some of the pitfalls that exist out there, and looking at some interesting stories of how people have used social media in their own lives, both professionally and personally. So good luck with that, and again, thank you very much for participating.